Yeah, good afternoon, every one of you.
Good afternoon, sir.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. Okay, Unit 5, we are seeing this food industry. So far we have completed all this. Transport choice, radiation. Yeah. Pasteurization. So this is also one type of preservation technique, or in order to increase the shelf life of a particular product, pasteurization will be employed. That is nothing but an heat treatment. So directly we will supply heat and the microorganisms which will be there, it will be killed or inactivated depending on the temperature which has been applied. So pasteurization recently is synonymous towards the milk products nowadays, but pasteurization can be used for any type of products. So pasteurization is a process in which certain processed and non-processed foods such as milk, fruit juices are treated with mild heat, usually less than 100 degrees centigrade, to eliminate pathogens and extend shelf life. So obviously the every preservation technique is to increase the shelf life of any type of product. The process safeguards food by destroying or inactivating organisms that contribute to spoilage, including vegetative bacteria but not bacterial spores. So vegetating bacteria, everything will be there. That will be at least it will be destroyed, or otherwise it will be at least kept as inactivated stage. If you consider, for example, the milk processing, not milk which we are procuring in domestic purpose, in our household purpose. So what happens every time our family people will do the heating process? Okay, why to just inactivate the bacteria which is causing to decrease the shelf life of that particular milk. So in order to increase that shelf life, for every 1 hour or every 2 hours, our family is just heating that milk and they are preserving for the long time, or throughout day they are preserving that milk. But otherwise, without heating, it will be spoiled. Within a half day, it will be completely spoiled, because when it is pasteurized, its lifetime, its a shelf life will be even increased for more days. But without pasteurization, as a raw milk, when you brought from some farmer, then what happens? Within a half day, you have to consume that food, that milk. Otherwise, it will be spoiled off. So because of that, our household purposes, they used to heat that one. So that is also one type of pasteurization, we can say, because it's only inactivates the bacteria, not kills the bacteria. But here the pasteurization, which is applied in industrial processes, largely it will kill the bacteria, which is causing the food to spoilage. So this process was named after the French scientist who just conducted a research and demonstrated this experiment that thermal processing would inactivate the bacteria or even kill the bacteria for the wine. Okay, then nowadays it is synonymous. This pasteurization is synonymous very much about this dairy product industries, especially for the milk. What we are drinking, the packet milk, everything is nothing but pasteurized milk only. That one. So the different types of thermal processing methods are there. So with the different names, we'll call this one. So the thermization. So what does this thermization means? So heat the milk to between 57 to 68 degrees centigrade and hold for 15 minutes. So this is thermization. Then what happens in this one? Thermization targets pathogenic bacteria while leaving the good bacteria in the product. So we required a good bacteria. We will say a good bacteria in our gut. That good bacteria will also be present because it will help in the digestive system. So because of that, we have to preserve our good bacteria. So what happens at high temperature heating, this good bacteria will also be killed. So that type of milk or that type of products, when we are consuming, it will be harmful for us only. So in the thermization process, since it's a very mild process or a mild temperature process, so it only selectively targets the pathogenic bacteria. Rather, it will leave this good bacteria in the product. So the low temperature do not alter the structure and taste of the milk. It do not at all alter the structure or a protein structure also. It will not alter. Whereas only it will target this pathogenic bacteria. Then next one is the batch pasteurization. So what is this batch pasteurization? This is also known as low temperature long time. So this is low temperature long time. Earlier days this was used low temperature for the long time. So in this process, heating the milk to 63 degrees centigrade for 30 minutes. So what happens in this one? The extended holding time, whatever the holding time is there here in the thermization process, 15 minutes only is there. It nearly it was doubled in this case. So this extended holding time alteration in the milk protein structure and taste. So increasing this one will obviously kill even more bacteria, but it will also cause some alteration in the milk protein structure and its taste also somewhat altered. For earlier days, it was used low temperature and long time. Nowadays, we are using this one flash pasteurization. So what does this flash pasteurization mean? So this is also called as high temperature short time heating. So HTST process we call. So this is what nowadays the dairy industry for the milk especially it is employing. So why this much heat is required for the this much time? Short time is required. So heating the milk between 72 to 40, 74 degrees centigrade around that bacteria, this pathogenic bacteria, Clostridium botulinum spores is there that will be killed around 72.8 degrees centigrades. But we cannot maintain accurately that 72.8 degrees centigrades because of this a range of pasteurization temperature was fixed like 72 degrees centigrades to 74 degrees centigrades. Because of this variation in this temperature set point, it will also kill some of the useful bacteria. So rather than it will offer more advantage of more killing the bacterial spores also. So if you see only the bacteria will be killed in this process, but here bacterial spores is nothing but the bacteria is there. To the bacteria the outside layer will be very hard, so it will resist whatever the harm we are going to do the harm to that bacteria. That spore will resist that one, so that will be a resistant layer. Because of this, the spores will not be easily died. So in this process, in the flash pasteurization, even the spores will also die. That's the advantage of this high temperature short time pasteurization process. Since we what we are drinking the household milk like in the packet milk, so this is the process which is employing flash pasteurization. Then next one is the high temperature, ultra high temperature pasteurization. So what does that mean? Ultra high temperature. So up to here we are using just 75 degrees centigrades around. But in the ultra high temperature, even the milk is heated at above 100 degrees centigrades or in between 135 to 140 degrees centigrades. That too very less time, 2 to 4 seconds only. So what happens in this process? The extreme heating which is supplied here will targets uh, Coxiella burnetii, so which causes Q fever. Q fever means quarry fever. So this was earlier days in the Europe. It was very prevalent. This Q fever. So this Q fever is nothing but Q means quarry fever. So that type of fevers will be there those time in the earlier days. So in order to stop this one, that in order to just trigger this Q fever, this is the bacteria which is responsible. So in order to kill this type of bacteria, this very high, ultra high temperatures will be applied period of time. So here the heat kills all the vegetative forms of bacteria and milk can survive for 9 months. So if you heat the temperature, if you heat the milk for a particular period of time for that very high temperatures, even not only kills the pathogenic bacteria, but it also increases the shelf life even to 9 months, okay, without any refrigeration. So that's the advantage of this ultra high temperature process, high temperature pasteurization process. Here in the flash pasteurization, what happens? Normally the packet milk also without refrigeration, we can't keep the packet milk for the long time. So we have to preserve that in a refrigeration. But in the high temperature, ultra high temperature, what happens? It will preserve the milk even for 9 minutes. So tetra packed. Usually that type of milk will be in a tetra packed milk. Then the next one is a canned sterilization. What is this canned sterilization? So this is a wet treatment of canned milk products in an autoclave or specialized treatment chambers. So heat to between 115 to 121 degrees centigrade for 10 to 20 minutes. So we can say this is a sterilization method in which the autoclave is useful. After canning that particular milk, the cans will be just dropped into some autoclave instrument. That autoclave instruments will be just pasteurizing using a high temperature steam. So that is called as canning sterilization. Usually this type of sterilization will be used for hospital, whatever the instruments are there in the hospitals to just clean out that one, to just remove the germs from that one, it will be used. Or for the milk products after canning, they can also be used. So these are the various pasteurization process, or simply we can say thermal processing methods which are available. Then especially if you refer the milk pasteurization, so milk pasteurization is nothing but heating milk to a predetermined temperature for specified period without recontamination during the entire process. Okay, without recontamination. So thermal heating, whatever the heating which we are applying in our household purpose, we can't guarantee that recontamination will not at all happen. But in this pasteurization, this is the main thing which is going to happen, which is without recontamination during the entire process. After that, it will be there, but in the process itself, there will be no recontamination. So the predetermined temperature usually depends on the heat resistant of spoilage microorganisms that the pasteurization program is targeting to destroy. So depending on this, whatever the spores or microorganisms there inside that one, after conducting that microscopic analysis, they will determine how much temperature is ideal for that particular food, particular milk. Why? Because milk will comes from different sources, not from the single animal. The milk is coming not from the single source or the single farmer. The milk is going to come. It is coming from various different sources. So that will have different ranges of bacteria. Depending on that, that will be pasteurized at temperatures, different temperatures. So that temperatures will be defined obviously using the obviously with respect to the bacterial contamination. How much contamination is there? What type of bacteria is there in that milk? So if you see the high temperatures or ultra high temperatures of pasteurization are very danger compared to the low temperature pasteurization. So we have to keep in mind that the temperatures, though it will kill some bacteria, it will also kill the good bacteria, as well as it will modify the protein structure, as well as taste also it will modify. So because of that one, it is very dangerous. But for some products, these temperatures are very much desired. Like see the preparation of yogurt. So for that yogurt, preparation of that yogurt, this high temperatures are very much required. Like that, many examples are there. Then methods used in milk pasteurization, especially what are the methods which are used in milk pasteurization? As I said, the high temperature short time pasteurization. Nowadays, whatever we are using, that is called a flash pasteurization. We are using now. That's the packet milk which we are receiving now. So flash pasteurization involves heating milk to 71.8 or 71.7 degrees centigrade for 15 seconds to kill Coxiella burnetii, this type of bacteria, which is most heat resistant pathogen in raw milk. So this is a heat resistant. With a normal heating or for a normal time, it will not at all go. So by research conducted, they just observed that heating this at this temperature for a 15 seconds, it will kill this bacteria. So that the shelf life of that milk will be particularly increased. So since it is technically impossible to bring the milk to that exact temperature, it is always safe to work with a range of temperatures. So because of this reason only, we cannot bring that accurate temperature 71.7 degrees centigrade. Because of this reason only, 72 to 74 degrees centigrade will be just used with a increased time of 15 to 20 seconds. So this will ensure that the milk is heated uniformly to the required temperature. So this is by research. They known that by conducting by just pasteurization milk at that temperature at that particular time, it will be effective to kill the bacteria. So this method is most suitable in continuous pasteurization system, since whatever the milk we are receiving now, it's a continuous pasteurization, and they will use this type of method. So flash pasteurizer milk will keep for between 16 to 21 days. So this can be kept for 16 to 21 days. But what happens due to the sales reasons or due to the commercial reasons of this dairy industry, every time the manufacturer, whoever the manufacturer is there, the dairy products, they want to just immediately sell down to increase their profit. So they will immediately push down to the market, and they will say the expiry date will be only for 1 week or at least 2 days or 3 days. So due to the commercial reasons only, they will just say, or otherwise we can correctly say that they might be not properly pasteurizing. Depending on the industry standards, the pasteurization will be there. But accurately, when you pasteurize the milk, it will be lasting. Its shelf life will be around 21 days, 16 to 21 days, it can be preserved. Then next one is a low temperature long time pasteurization. So decrease the temperature and increasing the this time. What happens in this one? So due to this prolonged heating, what happens? It will alter the structure of the milk protein. So that type of alteration is very much needed in the preparation of yogurt, but not for the drinking milk as such drinking milk. So because of this advantage, the product when the industry is manufacturing yogurt, so this low temperature, long time heating, long time pasteurization is very much advantageous in preparing this product. So this method is best for fast pasteurization where the milk is held in a jacketed vat or vessel, we can say, for effective pasteurization. So usually this will be carried out in a batch pasteurization or a batch mode, whereas the high temperature short time that is carried out in a continuous fashion. So there are many designs of batch pasteurization in the market that are suitable for both domestic as well as commercial use also. You can use for the domestic purpose also as well as the commercial purpose also. Then the next one is ultra high temperature pasteurization. So this is ultra high temperature means very much increased temperature for a very relatively short time, even for a seconds. So this is completely closed pasteurization method. So this method never exposed even for a fraction of a second during the entire process. So seconds, within the seconds, this process is going to complete. It involves heating milk or cream to between 135 to 150 degrees centigrade for 1 to 2 seconds only. You can observe that only within a seconds of time this process is carrying out. Then chilling it immediately and aesthetically packing it in a hermetic or nothing but a airtight container for storage. So why we have to use this type of process? For a varied reason, for varied different types of reasons, maybe because of this fever causing bacteria, Q fever causing bacteria. To kill that one, we have to go for that much temperature. Then despite the risk of Millard browning. So Millard browning means if you see that milk will be in a brown color. Why? Because there may be some reaction inside that one. There may be some reaction. Because of that, if you observe in our household also, that jar, whatever the vessels we are taking the milk, sometimes we can observe a yellowish layer. So yellowish layer we can observe, or a brownish layer also we can observe. Maybe due to some protein change or due to some reaction, it is going to happen that one. So ultra high temperature pasteurization remains the most popular milk preservation method for safe and stable milk. So this type of, when there is a risk of this Millard browning, so the Millard browning of that particular milk, this high temperature pasteurization is very much helpful. Then what are the steps which are going to do an effective pasteurization process? There are many steps are there. Even the seven basic steps are there, and two more sub steps are also there in this pasteurization process. Then the first one is we have to chill the milk. Why we have to chill the milk? Chilling is not at all a pasteurization process, but it's a preliminary purification process or a preliminary preservation process, we can say. So it is very necessary steps to deal with the large volumes of milk. So usually this milk is coming from various sources or different faraway places. So we have to store this milk for different reasons, for different processing reasons. So milk leaves the cow's udder. Okay, from this udder of the cow, the milk will be released at temperatures above the ambient. So the ambient, compared to the ambient temperature, the milk temperature will be very high when it is just taken down from the cow's udder, which encourages rapid bacterial multiplication. So that speeds up the spoilage. So raw milk, if without pasteurization, because of that reason only, due to the bacterial multiplication only, that is spoiling at the high rate compared to the pasteurized milk. So however, reducing the temperatures to between 2 to 5 degrees centigrade arrest bacterial growth and metabolism. So by just preserving that food around this temperature, what happens? The bacterial growth can be adjusted, but not, we cannot kill that bacteria using the chilling method, but we can arrest their growth. So we cannot offer any metabolic effect to this one. So they will just inactivate that one. So this provides a head start at keeping the quality before proper pasteurization commences. So chilling this milk is nothing but a pre-treatment process, we can say. Only the chillers will be there, a big chillers. That type of chillers, that milk will be stored for the long period of time before processing that milk for the pasteurization. Then next one is a preheating or regeneration, we can say. and standardization stage. At this standardization stage only, the milk processors, they will just remove whatever the cream is there, whatever the fat content, everything is there. They will be just taken down that one, and they will commercialize for other type of products. So they will obtain the profits from these products only, compared to the milk pasteurization or something, milk packets and everything. They will obtain profits in this phase only, particularly during the standardization process. So the chilled milk is heated to about 40 degrees centigrade to facilitate easy separation of butter fat during the standardization. So butter fat will be there, will be easily separated. So after separating that, the butter fat will have a very commercial value. So the system uses regenerative heating. So the regenerative heating they will use inside this one. A regenerative heat exchangers can be used in this one. So it uses the heat of the already pasteurized milk to heat up the incoming chilled milk. So already whatever the pasteurized milk will be there. So regenerative heaters which will utilize the heat energy already coming from the pasteurization setup. So the chilled milk in the counter current flow cools down the pasteurized milk. So chilling milk will be entering in the tube side, then on the shell side that whatever the heat already there, the steam or something heat is there that is coming from pasteurization process, will be heating this one. So because of this regenerative heat advantage, the profits will be very more for the dairy industry, because they are in one go they are just separating this butter fat which will have a commercial high commercial value compared to the milk itself, and in the other phase they are using the regenerative heat inside that one, whatever the steam which is there without just discharging that one, they are going to use that one. Due to this, the profits will be very high in this standardization stage. So the purpose of standardization is to just obtain a product with uniform content of butter fat. So when you are heating, the small bubbles of fat can be formed. So that small bubbles will create a hindrance in the processing. So what happens during standardization? The standardization, that fat will be uniformly just distributing inside the milk. Nothing but a uniform milk will be created with a uniform fat content. Then the next one is a clarification stage. So in the clarification stage, you might have noticed during the mechanical unit operations course, why do we use the clarification? So clarification is nothing but as tiny particles of a solids can be separated from the liquid. So in order to do that, there must be some agitation source or something will be there. So clarification is essential for removing all foreign matter from the products. So foreign matters, since milk is coming from various different sources, there may be a contamination from the source itself, or in the during the storage itself there might be a contamination. There may be a deposit of many foreign matters during the vessel storage or something. So that every foreign matter has to be removed. Because of that advantage, here the clarification stage is employed. So large solid particles are removed by staining the milk through tubular metallic filters, or nothing but a clarifier, we can say. A centrifugal clarifier. So this clarifier can't be used during the standardization process, but a separate centrifugal clarifier is used to remove all soil and sediment from the milk. So soil means nothing but a contamination or a foreign particles. Usually this is going to happen when this is slowly at a inside that one. What happens is small tiny particles whatever is there will be depositing in the bottom. That tiny particles will be removed like this in a fashion. So usually the centrifugal action will be employed here. The next one is once again the standardization stage. It is important standardizing milk fat to ensure the product of consistency quality in the market. So whatever the market is there, how you are saying the standardized milk, how you are saying it is a skimmed milk, how you are saying low fat milk, or how you are saying high fat milk. So depending on this standardization stage only, they are about to label their product as a low fat, high fat, or the skimmed or standardized. Like that, they are saying that one. There are customers who will consume skimmed, okay, high fat milk they will consume. There are also a customer who will just consume this low fat milk. There are customers who will also consume the standardized milk. So depending on varied range of customers, so this content, the fat content inside that milk will be adjusted. So the standardization is necessary to ensure that all the customers are catered for. Depending on the standardization process, only they are going to offer various types of milks ranging with varying ranges of fats. So again, it is during the process. of standardization, that you get a separate butter fat that is used for making cream and other fat based products such as butter and ghee. So during this separation, whatever the butter fat is there, if extra fat is required or high fat is required, that will be added, or otherwise that fat will be just extracted. That butter fat will be having various commercial value like butter preparation, ghee preparation. So many commercial products can be prepared there. But standardization is required in order to get a uniform milk. That uniform milk can be labeled for a commercial reasons. Then next one is the homogenization stage. So homogenization stage also same one. The milk has to be homogenized, meaning the fat, whatever the not fat, the solid contents. So milk will have a solid content also. That solid contents needs to be just adjusted, okay, throughout the milk. So raw milk, if you see, the bubbles of the solid, sorry, fat will be a small bubbles will be there, large bubbles will be there, or a tiny bubbles will be there. So, but in the cold or a raw milk, after 1 hour, what happens? This fat largely will be accumulated as a cream on the surface of the milk. But in order to lower this accumulation on only in one region, the homogenized phase, the homogenization stage will be employed here. So what happens? This uniform particle size will be there and uniformly distributed throughout the milk rather than just accumulating all the solid particles in a single region. So the homogenization is a physical process of breaking down the milk fat globules into tiny droplets to discourage cream separation. Here, like this, the cream separation will be happens in the raw milk. But when you homogenize that one, the cream separation will not at all happen. That will be looked as a uniform milk. So tiny droplets of fat do not rise in the milk column, since reducing their size also increases their density in the milk. That tiny droplets will not produce this type of effect. So a milk homogenizer working at between 100 to 170 bars split all the fat globules into very tiny droplets that increases the level of integration of the fat in the milk. So the high this pressures 170 bars pressure means very high pressures will be just applied here. That much pressure will be applied here in order to homogenize the fat content inside this milk. As a result, the milk fat remains uniformly distributed in the milk. So in order to lower this type of possibilities, in order to have this type of possibility, the homogenization process will be takes place. So commercially, if you see the homogenized milk products, so many commercial values will be there for that one. So that commercial reasons only they are making this one. So this one is the advantages. Since the fat is dispersed evenly, cream does not gather on the top. So like this top cream cannot be gathered. Homogenized milk looks more appealing. Okay, they will look more appealing uniformly. But when the milk is, when the solids are gathering in the top region, the people, what people will think, the bottom milk, whatever is there, it is nothing but a water content. They will think like that. Somebody has mixed the water content for the commercial reasons, they will think like that. But homogenized milk will looks like this one. Due to this advantage, every uniformly it will look as a milk only. So it also increases the shelf life. So up to 11 days the shelf life will also can also be increased using the homogenization process. It allows producers to to mix milk from different cows into one batch. This homogenization process only will facilitate the using of various sources of milk, different sources of milk. So milk, that much heavy amount of milk is not going to come from one cow and one animal. So because of this reason, that reason only the homogenization process will be employed. Then next one is the heating section. So why this heating section? Usually heating section, when it come up in mind, there will be some heaters will be employed, some heat exchangers will be employed. But usually during the heating section, a plate and frame, plate heat exchangers will be just employed here. So this utilizes heat from steam to rise the temperature of the milk from about 60 degrees centigrade to a required 72 degrees centigrade, so that the Clostridium botulinum spores, okay, spores producing bacteria will be killed down very effectively. So the steam exchanges heat with the milk across the plate heat exchanger plates in the counter current fashion. In the counter current fashion, it is going to pass inside this plate heat exchanger. Okay, you don't have to draw this one. Plate heat exchanger is also anything, but the milk pasteurization is also very much important according to your point of view. Then at the end of this section, there is a temperature sensor which controls the flow diversion valve. So here the flow diversion valve will be there. it will control depending on the how it is attained, this 72 degrees centigrade, whether the temperature is very high or whether the temperature is very low compared to this 72 degrees centigrade. Depending on this one, a flow diversion valve is going to operate. If the temperature is not at all reaching to this temperature, or it is reaching below the temperature or above the temperature, what happens? This flow diversion valve will be just setting on, that will divert all the milk once again to the raw milk stage, and once again that milk has to be processed throughout this process. That's the advantage of using this flow diversion valve, especially in the plate heat exchanger. So any milk does not attain the required temperature is diverted back to the heating section until it attains the required temperature. So until it attains the required temperatures in between 72 to 74 degrees centigrade, then only that process will be entirely carried out without any interruption. Otherwise, the flow diversion valve will be setting on, that will allow all the milk to fall in once again into the raw milk storage tank. Then once again it has to pass through all these stages of milk processing or heating stages. Then holding section. So what happens after this one? A holding sections will be there inside this one. So holding section, after heating milk flows into the holding tubes whose lengths have been calibrated with the milk flow rate to ensure that milk takes at least 16 seconds in the tubes. So that tubes, inside these tubes, inside this holding tubes, so that milk has to be just remain for 16 seconds. So then only that bacteria will be killed. So all the milk must maintain the required pasteurization temperature at the end of the tubes. So in order to maintain the pasteurization temperature, the plate heat exchangers will be employed, and in order to ensure the 16 seconds, after ensuring the 16 seconds of that processing time inside the tubes only, that milk is once again flowing towards the product side. So in case of breach in the values of temperature or in the time, so what happens is sensor will trigger the flow diversion valve to take the milk back to the heating section to bring the milk to the required temperature. So that's what once we explained. So once the milk has attained the required temperatures at the end of the holding tubes, milk flow back to the regenerative section to the heat incoming chilled milk, while itself being cooled down to 30 degrees centigrade. So whatever the heat which has been employed during this heating process, that will be used to cool down that chilled milk initially, which we have used the chilled milk, that will be cooling down this already heated milk. So that's the advantage of this regenerative section or regenerative heating. Then cooling or chilling section. So after regenerative cooling, what happens of pasteurization milk? It moves to the cooling section of the plate heat exchanger, where chilled water or a plate heat exchanger, here the chilled water or a cold water, we can say that. Okay, cooled water or chilled water, we can say, in the plate heat exchanger coolant towers. The towers of pasteurized milk at 4 degrees centigrade. That will be cooling down the milk to 4 degrees centigrade. What happens then? The chilled milk is then pumped to the packaging machine for aesthetic packing or airtight packing, and subsequently storage in the cold room. So the packing will be happening as such, depending on the packet size or depending on the volume of that packet, it will be happening around the very cold room temperature. Then what is the significance of this pasteurization process? So is this okay, the pasteurization process?
Yes, sir.
Okay, until here the 6 points are this one main section, and this 2.7 and 8 are nothing but the subsections of this heating section only.
Yes, sir.
Then significance of pasteurization. Why we have to do the significance? Initially, when I introduced the topic itself, you can just list it down. What are the points? For the chief reasons only, this pasteurization is employed. But for the examination point of view, I just pointed out these points. So proper pasteurization is necessary for the following reasons. So what are these reasons? The chief objective of the milk pasteurization is to destroy pathogenic bacteria that could have a public health concern. So public health concern because of this bacteria, because of that reason, the pasteurization process is taking place. Why? It will destroy, this pasteurization process will destroy these microorganisms in the product, and that will be safe for the public consumption or our domestic consumption. So secondly, what happens? The pasteurization eliminates the destructive bacteria and enzymes that could cause spoilage of the product. So here they are killing, because it is harmful to our health. But in the second point, they are killing because to prolong the shelf life of the milk product. So that is also one reason, and there is a need to ensure that a product can keep for longer periods without expensive storage equipment. So nowadays, if you see, the Tetra packed milk will be there. Why? Because the Tetra packed milk, without any refrigeration, without adding further more cost in refrigerating the processed product. So that type of a single stage processing is happening, that one. Because of that advantage only, we are advancing. The research has been going on in more advancing this pasteurization process. So pasteurization will eliminate spoilage bacteria and enzymes and extend the shelf life of the product. So this one, so ultimately the aim is that once something is processed, it can be stored without any additional cost. Like without any additional cost means what happens? Once again we have to refrigerate that product, means it is also adding up to the cost. Once we process it, means it has to remain in a same stage until we just consume, or at least some expiry date should be there. In that point of view, research has been carried out. We can just notice during the passing through the shopping malls, you can just notice, or grocery shop, some Tetra packs will be there. So what is the advantage of that Tetra pack? Without heating also we can consume directly that milk, and at the same time without refrigeration also we can preserve that milk. So soy milk, if you consider the soy milk, it will be spoiled when you open the Tetra pack, it will be spoiled within one day, soya milk. But the Tetra pack, without opening that one, it will remain for 3 months. If you just verify in some shopping malls, you can verify that one. So that's the advantage of this pasteurization process. Then the next one is a freeze drying. So drying, we know that one. What is this freeze drying? So freezing, we have seen earlier. What is freezing? What is a refrigeration cycle? What type of refrigerants are advantages? So in order to cool down the temperature from the normal temperature, is freezing is taking place. But what is this drying condition? So in order to remove the a small amount of water which is present inside the product, the drying process will be takes place. But evaporation is also there. It is also a removing water content only. But how it deviates from the drying? So deviation from the drying of that evaporation will be removing a large amount of water. In the drying, a minute amount of water which is present inside the boundaries of the product can also be removed here in the drying. That's the advantage. But when you club up this freezing plus drying, what happens? It will offer many advantages. Like it will have a good texture of the product. It will have a crispy texture of the product. Like that, it will remain it will just having a same nutrient value as the raw product, and at the same time flavors will not be just gone out, or some aromas can be just stored, cannot be just evaporated when we are drying. Normal drying, what happens when you remove the water in the normal drying? For example, when you consider a meat product, okay, we will have a dry fish, or this one dry meat. Okay, the texture of that dry meat will be just changing. Why? Because in the normal drying process, the water content will be as such extracted. But when you consider a normally freeze dried one, that one, whatever the raw shape will be there, to a maximum extent, that raw shape will be just holding that one. So that's the advantage of this freeze drying. Okay, freezing plus drying, cold temperature drying, we will say. In the high temperature drying, what happens? Maximum we will supply some heated air. Here the coldness or chillness we will supply inside that one. The popular product, the first invention regarding this freeze drying is the coffee industry. Okay, first product which was prepared using this freeze drying is the coffee product. Okay, coffee nowadays what we are drinking, the instant coffee. That coffee might be coming from the this heated leaching also, or otherwise it would have prepared using this freeze drying also. There are spray dryer is there. In spray dryer, what happens in the heated walls, that coffee liquid will be just sprayed down, and it will be converted into the powder. That type of one coffee product is there, instant coffee. And other type of instant coffee product is also there, that is prepared using this freeze drying, or cold, very chilled conditions, that powder will be prepared. So that will have some very high commercial value compared to this spray dried product. So the first product came out of this research is this coffee product only. So this freeze drying is also called as a lyophilization. So this lyophilization is nothing but a process that involves freezing a substance at very low temperature and then extracting water. So water, how can we extract that one? Ice. So that ice will be converted to vapor once again. That is called as a sublimation process by applying high vacuum. Okay, here the high temperature is not at all required, because you can assume that you might think that there's a vaporization of water, but low vaporization of water is there, but applying a high vacuum will result in sublimation of this whatever the ice which has been taken down from the product into the vaporization of that water. So in that way it will this lipophilization will be taking place. So why we have to do this one? So in order to preserve and store food without the need for refrigeration. So next, after the processing that food, it will not be once again we don't have to refrigerate that one. That's the advantage. Like a coffee, we don't have to refrigerate that one. Once again, we can just store in some condition at a room temperature. Also, we can store for the long period of time until unless we are just contacting that coffee powder with some wet source. Okay, when we are contacting the coffee product with some wet source, what happens? It will be solidified. So that's the disadvantage. But coffee was the first freeze-dried food product to be produced. But now vegetables, fruits, meats, fish, dairy products, herbs, and food flavoring can be successfully freeze-dried. So nowadays many products are being manufactured, being processed using this freeze-drying process. But earlier the first product was this coffee product only. Then conventional drying methods also have a major disadvantage, as the high temperatures used can cause chemical or physical changes. Changing the taste or texture of the food product could make it inedible or less palatable, which would be very undesirable. So it will change the texture, and chemically it will just interact with the environment. Many things will be happening inside this normal conventional drying process. So because of these all these changes are not there in this freeze drying, that's advantage. The freeze drying is very much preferred in the, especially in the food industry. Then what are the advantages of this freeze drying? So advantages of this freeze drying is results in high quality product because of low temperature processing. So it is not at all changing the quality of the product. Whatever the quality initially the raw material is there, that type of quality you can encounter after freeze drying. But that is not the case in the conventional drying. So the original shape is maintained and the quality of rehydrated product is excellent. So original shape, whatever the shape is there, that shape to a maximum extent it will be retained. So after rehydrating, once again we just add water to some that to that product, the quality will be same as such in the raw product. So that will be just absorbing the same amount of water inside that one. The next one is increases the shelf life. So obviously every preservation technique is to increase the shelf life only. Then minimization of deterioration, nutrients retained and color in maintained. So whatever the color, whatever the nutrient value is there, that will be as such as there in the raw products. So that's the advantage. Then the freeze dried fruits maintain its original shape and has a characteristic soft texture. So crispy texture will be there. Very softness of some products will be very crispy. So we can say. So this is dehydrated product or normally dehydrated product. So you can observe there is a physical changes are also there. Some of the blackening of this fruit is also there. Raw fruit, raw cherry we can say. So it is happening like this. So whereas the freeze dried product, as such, if you compared with the real raw fruit, that will be same as this freeze dried product. That's the advantage of this freeze drying. Then the same, when you just froze some food, there will be a possibility of some fungus depositors or something will be deposited. But in the freeze drying, this is the case. Then similarly with the bananas also when you dehydrate, it will have a possibility to change in the yellow texture. So due to the oxidation process, it will changing into the yellow texture. But here that is not the case. A normal banana-like texture will be there in the freeze-dried product. That's the advantage in having a freeze-dried products. Then application of freeze drying. So where do this application will takes place apart from the food industry? Like the first one is a biological application in order to store this, preserve this bacteria and yeast compounds, which maybe have a application in the this dairy industry as well as this bakeries and everything. They will store this using this freeze drying. Then biomedical applications like a surgical transplants. If you see the surgical transplants, so this is a surgical what we say this uh, some organ of some animal that can be preserved without any change in the physical structure. It can be preserved in the freeze drying only. But as compared to with the normal conventional processes, what happens is textures will be just changing. So without changing its textures can be observed only in the freeze drying process. Then the next one is the food preservation. So obviously what we are discussing now is regarding this food preservation only. So food preservation, like a coffee is the first product, then vegetables, fruits, meats, fish, dried dairy products, herbs and food flavorings, everything can be just stored or this its shelf life can be increased very much high using this freeze drying process. This is a coffee, dried coffee or a freeze dried coffee. So that's the advantage of this food freeze drying. So is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay. Anybody is having any doubt? Just please ask me. Okay, I'm clueless. Okay, then this is food additives. Okay, why do we add additives? Okay, preservation technique. This is also one type of preservation technique as compared to other techniques like pasteurization or freeze drying or using the irradiation process. Compared to that one, this is also one type of food additives. But there are many myths or there are many facts are also there in using the food additives. There are many chemical reactions is taking place, many adverse effect is taking place. Because of that, there are many cases like boric acid has been banned before World War I, and after that, due to some commercial reasons, they have once again brought this boric acid as a cheap and wonderful preservative for this food products. Like this, there are many reasons out there. So people will remain in many myths, as well as people will accept many facts also. But food preservatives anyway, it is going to harm, or rather than going to do some good, they are going to harm also. So the normal food preservation, how can what is food additives? Okay, what type of additives are called as food additives? So food additives are substances added to food to preserve flavor or enhance its taste, appearance, or other qualities. So whatever the qualities are there will be enhanced. For example, in the conventional manner, if you see, the pickling is one type of food preservation by offering some vinegar, some something else. This can be prepared in the household purpose. So pickling, in order to increase the shelf life, like a mango pickling or a garlic pickling, everything will be there. Within the mangoes, we have to consume within 1 or 2 days, or even if it's a raw mango, we can consume within 1 week or 2 weeks. We have to consume, but when you preserve that mango for the long time, we can consume the pickle even more than 1 year also. Okay, with a proper storage mechanism. So that's the advantage of a pickling. So this is also one type of food additive. We can say the food preservation technique. Then next one is some additives, adding a salt. Salt is a additive as well as a flavoring agent also. So food additives, usually we will just there is many debate that some additives are also considered as a flavoring agents, like salt it is usually considered as a flavoring agent, but many people will refer this as also this preservatives also. So this salted fish. Okay, salted fish, why we use this salted fish? In order to preserve this fish product for the long period of time, we will salt that food. Salting will just kill the bacteria inside that one, so that that fish can be consumed for the more time, for the more shelf life can be even increased for the more time. Fish, obviously within 1 day we have to consume as a raw fish, but when you apply some salt on that one with a suitable technique, so that will be preserved for the long period of time. So next one is a dried fish or a dried prawns or a dried meat. So similarly the same case, when you dehydrate all these products, its shelf life will be increased very much. So prawns as such, if you see, without any freezing or as a raw prawns, you have to consume within a half day, or a fish also within 1 day, within a half day you have to consume, and meat also without any refrigeration we have to consume within a 1 day. But when you just dehydrate these products, so what happens? The dehydration process, due to this drying, the shelf life will be increased. This fishes we can consume for more than 6 months also. This is also we can consume for more than 6 months also. This from my experience, we can consume the dried meat for 1 year, even 1 year, because we as a Muslim, we will just have this meat during the Bakri. That meat will be preserved for 1 year. I have observed this in my personal case. 1 year also we can consume this dried meat. Then the food additives are also include substances that may not maybe introduce it to food indirectly. So these are called indirect food additives. As such, when you introduce during this processing, what happens that will call as a direct food additives. When you introduce the food additives during the packaging or manufacturing process or during the transportation or storage, that is called as a indirect additives. So there are many additives are there. We'll discuss this one. Okay. Yeah, there are many additives out there. We will discuss this one tomorrow. Okay, if you have any doubt, you can just ask me this one. So it will going to take only one class. I will complete this one, including the doubts and everything. Can I assume no doubts?
Yes, sir.
Only Ravi and this Pavani is speaking. Nobody else is speaking.
Yes, sir.
And after lunch, you might be feeling somewhat dizzy, somewhat sleepy. Okay, Anand, 16-24.
Yes, sir.
Anand, what about you? Anand, I am not taking attendance. Just I want to know the feedback, whether you are understanding the speed is adjustable or I have to slow down. You have to tell me according to your requirement. I will just adjust. Then 17/24.
Sir,
What about you?
అర్థమైంది సార్.
అర్థమవుతుంది. ఓకే, ప్రీవియస్ యూనిట్స్ ఏమైనా డౌట్స్ ఉన్నాయా?
ఏం లేదు సార్, వచ్చిందో అది చెప్పించుకున్నా ఇప్పుడే.
Okay. Okay, maybe we will have exams in the next month itself. Maybe you have to work hard. So next one, Ananya 1, roll number 1.
Sir, no doubt, sir. I'm able to understand, sir.
Okay. And roll number 3 or 2.
Sir, I'm understanding, sir.
Okay, everything.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm.
In previous classes, I was little bit not able to catch it, but now I'm okay. I
Okay,
have to
if
watch
you
videos.
have any doubt, you can just tell me in the previous units also. I will try to clarify that one. Okay. Which topic you are finding difficult in the previous one?
Right now, I don't know.
Okay, you just go
I
through
watch
once again the
videos.
notes.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. You are not clarifying your doubts through the videos once again watching also. You just ask me. Once again, I will conduct a separate session for the doubts clarification. Okay?
Okay, sir.
Okay, Pavani, you are obviously you are telling. Okay, then 5, number 5.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. What
No
about
doubts.
you? No doubts.
I'm able to understand.
Previous units also.
Yes, sir.
Okay, remember that we are going to complete the entire 5th unit also. So we are completing syllabus. Okay, then 6, roll number 6.
No doubts, sir. It's fine with me.
Okay, 7, roll number.
No doubt, sir.
No doubt. Okay, 8. Roll number 8. Number 14 is on hold. Okay, roll number 11. Roll number 14. Okay, people who are not going to respond, I will just put absent. Roll number 11. Roll number 14. Okay, network issue. Okay. 11, roll number 11. Okay, roll number 14. Roll number 15.
Yes, sir.
What is?
Follow the class.
Okay, earlier units also.
Earlier, sir.
Okay, 17.
Sir, I came outside for some work, sir. I'll listen to the recordings. Today only I missed the class.
Not today's class. Not today's class.
Sir, I understood, sir. I understood for class.
Okay. Roll number 20, Ravi saying, okay. 22. Roll number 22. 23.
Present, sir, 23.
Yes. What about doubts? Your understanding? I'm asking you feedback, not attendance. Roll number 23. Okay, I'm
Sir.
getting absent. What's your name? 23.
Praveen, sir.
Praveen, what about you? I think
No
you're not
doubts.
following class. 25. Roll number 25. Roll number 25. 28.
Good afternoon, sir.
Hi, good afternoon. What about you?
Yes, sir. Following.
Previous units also?
Previous some units I skipped, sir.
Which units? Skipped means you not attended class or?
Attended, sir, but didn't listen.
But?
Didn't listen, sir.
Why?
Sir, I have to be in shop, sir, daily. That's why.
You have to be in shop.
Yes, sir.
Why? This is a college time.
College time, but nobody at home, sir. That's why.
Okay, it's up to you. If you want to pass, you have to listen carefully.
Yes, sir.
Okay, watch once again videos. Otherwise, if you have any difficulty, just ask me for help. Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes. Yes.
32 roll number. Okay. 33.
Yes, sir.
What about you?
I don't have doubts, sir.
No doubts at all. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Previous units also.
Yes, sir.
Okay. 34 roll number 34.
Yes, sir.
Yes. What about you?
Sir, no doubt, sir. Previous units ఒకసారి చూసుకోవాలి.
ఓకే ఒకసారి చూసుకొని ఏమన్నా హెల్ప్ కావాలంటే అడగండి ఓకే
ఓకే సార్
39 roll number 39
sir I did not visit some class, sir.
Okay, why?
I went marriage event, sir.
మీకు మ్యారేజ్ అయిందా?
No, sir. I went to marriage, sir, so I did not listen some classes. I will listen in afterwards.
Okay,
sir.
once again you can watch. Okay, you know procedure, I guess. How can you watch the videos in the Microsoft Streams?
I
Okay,
know,
there is
sir.
a link. Okay, yeah, just watch it. If you want any help, just ask me. Roll number 42. Roll number 42. 49. Roll number 49. DCT 49. DCT 49. Okay, anyway, no problem. Okay, thank you once again.